Welcome to Flip Through Friday. Hey, it's Care. Welcome to my take at the lake. Couple housekeeping duties to get to before we get started on Flip Through Friday. I want to thank you for your patience and watching my older videos during this difficult time. And I feel like while this is all going on, I got a truckload of new subscribers. And I feel bad because they're getting kind of the silent treatment. And if you are a new subscriber, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And I apologize for my time away, but grief takes time. If you've not heard or seen the videos, one of my beastlies had to be put to sleep a few weeks ago. And I don't handle that well at all. And so I crawled into my cave of sadness to lick my wounds, as they say, and I had a cache of recorded videos that I wasn't going to put out because they were old and kind of dated, but it helped. They were already edited and ready to go. I just had to tack on a couple little explanatory notes, and hopefully you saw at least one of them. But if you're new here, welcome. If you've been here a while, I'm so glad you're sticking this out with me. I appreciate you. The thoughts and hugs and virtual love that came through the YouTube comments through this time have been an enormous comfort to me, as I tend to be very solitary, but during times like this you need people, and those of you who've reached out, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Even if you haven't reached out, if you're watching the videos and you're unsubscribed, I appreciate that too. So let's get on to Flip Through Friday. And this is my first time recording since, so it's kind of low energy. I just don't feel up to fun in the sun and party on, dude. I'm just not feeling it yet, but you got to get back on the horse, right? What I'm showing you today, what I'm flipping through for you today, Flip Through Friday, by the way, is a hashtag hosted by the wonderful Christina's Shack. Please go check out her videos and her channel and her caravan journal and her glue books. They're amazing. I learned about this through Janet Nash. She often does Flip Through Fridays, often with a tutorial. Not always, but sometimes. And Doki Doki Forest often does a Flip Through Friday. All kinds of ideas, and I've heard Christina say it doesn't have to be a finished project. It could be a photo album. It could be anything you want to flip through. And so I thought this was a nice, easy way back into recording. What I'm going to flip through for you today, as you have probably garnered from the thumbnail, is crafting through grief. I've now lost 3 of my 4 Bostons in the course of 3 years. It seems like back to back to back, even though there's about a year in between. I'm still not over the first one. And then the second one went, and now Buddy. And I'm okay as long as my hands are busy and my mind is occupied. But it can't just be anything. Like I couldn't record. I just couldn't be perky. Not that I'm perky. We all know she's crabby, but I just couldn't be my sparkling self. And I literally, the morning after the bad thing happened, and what happened is he had a horrible seizure. He was healthy, perfectly healthy, funky, playing with his toys, feisty, poking a stick at his sister like he always does before bed. They were playing. We went to bed. And 1 hour later, he had a horrendous seizure. Never had one before like that. Never. And that's exactly what happened to Riley. And just out of the blue, super, super strong and healthy, and bam, not so much. Of course, it happens at midnight. Scary, horrible, awful thing. And the next day, he was okay. A little out of sorts, but that took a lot out of all of us. We didn't sleep that night. And the next day, he had another one, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. and I rushed him to the vet, and I'm pretty sure it that long of a seizure does brain damage, and he was suffering, and I couldn't let that go on, so here we are. The next morning, I was sitting in front of my computer, and I clicked on YouTube. I asked myself, well, what am I going to do now? And there was Janet Nash's video called Mindful Doodling. And I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. And while she was doing her video and while her video was running, I went and I grabbed my palette, my plastic gray palette that I put acrylic paints on, and a few of my favorite colors, a brayer, and my scraper card, just a gift card from Walmart. And I went to scraping paint because I love doing that, and she makes it look so fun and interesting, and it gave me something to do with my hands and something to occupy my mind. And I cried, and I scraped paint, and I cried, and I scraped paint, and then once I did it on these kind of mailers. I just scraped paint or brayered paint, and then got out my Posca pens and went to doodling on them. This is a lunch bag that I'm going to work into a journal. Lots of mailers and just fun doodles. I grabbed a sketchbook. This was intended for something else entirely. A color class that I'm teaching. This was going to be my book for that, and I wasn't even thinking at all. I just grabbed it and started doodling and did this. I'll link this lady's channel below. This is not my original idea. I was inspired by a lady who does Zentangles all the time, and I really liked the circles. And I love the neurographic art. This is very, very relaxing to me, more so than the Zentangles. I find the neurographic art is more intuitive and easier on my brain, where these kind of things took some thought, and I was so afraid of screwing it up that it wasn't terribly relaxing a little bit, but this was better. This took me a couple days to do. I didn't do it all in one sitting. I just traced every circle I could find in my kitchen mason jar lid and the bottom of a teacup, and made some circles, and then went to doodling. When I had the paints out, this is where I cleaned off my brayer. More scrape paint to do some doodling on. It's got copper and gold on it. More Zentangle doodling over the scraped and or brayered paint. I love these colors. I wanted to do something bright, and these colors always make me happy. They remind me of summer. They're the neon colors, blue, green, yellow, pink. They just remind me of summer. And very simple doodling. I think I said it earlier. I'll say it again. I really like the neurographic art. And if you don't know what neurographic art, it is this stuff. There's a whole science of it, and following and teaching of neurographic art about how it's supposed to help make connections in your brain. I've read some places where if you have a problem that you'd like to solve, you write it on a piece of paper, flip the piece of paper over, roundabout, all from one edge of the paper all the way over to the other edge of the paper. I do a couple of them so there aren't any major big blank spaces. And then wherever there is a corner, a sharp angular corner, you round it out. And I like to do it so you can't really see where the lines connect. I don't like to have like big globs. I like them to just be sort of seamless, if that makes sense. And you kind of have to just go back in and go back in. And for this kind of Zentangling here, instead of the Posca pens, I was using my microns, my Pigma microns, different sizes, and I don't have any idea exactly which size did what. Of course, for this bigger stuff, it would be a bigger size. For this finer stuff, I think this was I want to say an 02. It's very tiny. This is an 005, so it's even tinier still. I mean, it's like a needle point. Slow that shit down. It's like a needle point. Very fine. And I quite like it. And what I found interesting was I kept coming back to this. I used to do this all the time in high school and college. When I was doodling, it was that kind of doodling I was doing. Another scrapey paint. Normal. There we go. And a couple more scrapey paints. I just think that's so fun. And then I wanted to do a whole one of these. I have 3 more spots to do. And this, I haven't seen it on a Zentangle. That doesn't mean that no one else has done it. It just means that I haven't seen it. But with this, I did this in circles. I've done this on whole pages. I've done huge acrylic paintings of this too, in different styles, but the same sort of principle. So I just take a ruler and quick, like in pencil, real light pencil, draw my lines. And I just eye it up. I don't measure. I try to get them as equal as possible, but if it's varied a little bit, it's not a big deal. It might even add some interest to the design. Going a little bit darker here with the pencil so you can see it than I would normally do. I'm going way quicker than I normally would. I normally would be very meticulous about getting these as close to the same size as possible. Once you have your lines down, then I try to start at a corner rather than in the center of a blank one. I start at a corner and just do that. And then I do it again. If I feel like there's a lot of major spaces, then I'll do another little one. Then I would go in with whatever color. And I think I decided orange would be the right color for that spot. Or no, it was going to be red, orange, and another purple. So this one will be red. That's kind of cool. Buddy's collar was red. So the point of this flip through is really other things that I did during this time. It was I tore up magazines. I tore through the tears. You know, it just, again, gave my mind something to focus on and my hand something to do that didn't tax me creatively, or I just had no energy, really. But I couldn't just lay around and do nothing but cry either. So crafting can save you. Crafting light. And I kept hearing Janet Nash in my head. Gentle crafting for self-care. Oh, the wisdom in that. There's so much wisdom in that. The other thing that I did to this horrible time is something that I don't normally do, which is reach out to people. I asked my cousin if she'd come and watch movies with me. I asked my mom if she would just stay with me. Normally, you know, mom's there all the time, but, you know, she's got a lot to do and they're busy and whatnot. And one day I just was having a really hard time, and I asked Mom, will you just come watch movies with me? Because I can't sit and watch a movie by myself. I can't just sit. I have to do something. But if someone's here and we're watching a movie, I can do that. I had my doodles out with me. I doodled on my lap. I did a lot of the doodles on here, on those envelopes. I colored in some Zentangles. I still was doing stuff, but I had company here, and that helped enormously. As I said, as did the comments on YouTube. I wasn't sure about putting it out because I don't want, you know, I don't want to bring everybody down. B, I don't want to hear a whole bunch of really sad dog stories. Yeah, I lost my dog too, and yeah, I know. But it helps to know you're not alone. And of course I know I'm not alone. People lose beloved pets every single day, sadly. I don't know how vets do it. How do veterinarians do that every single day? 2 or 3 times a day, maybe. Several times a week. Oh, I just can't even imagine. But gentle crafting or light crafting. Another thing that I did was tore up pages, just tore pages in half for another project that I'm working on. Took a ruler and just tore and tore and tore pages for a future project. Although that wasn't foremost in my mind. Foremost in my mind was just keeping my mind occupied and my hands busy. So back to this. Once you have your squiggles on there, you just start coloring every other one. And usually it works out. It's like some kind of magic trick. But once in a while, it doesn't. I can't remember which one I just recently did. And it was off a little bit. But you can't really see it. Now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. The important thing is not to think too much about it, and you just start coloring in. With these, when I did the ruler, I did it with the marker. There's no pencil lines in here. So before I go too far on this orange, I'm going to go through and erase most of those lines so that I don't have to see them through. So I did one, and I'm going to leave one blank. I'm going to do the next one. Here's a good spot. I wanted to show you this for a while, and I keep forgetting. So you might know this, you might not know this. So I'm here, I'm showing you this mini tutorial, or this is how I do this particular design info, but I haven't zoomed in, which I've discussed before is kind of irritating. I can't really see what you're doing. Sometimes we don't always remember to zoom the camera in to show what we're doing. We can do that as people who record. We can do that this way on the camera while we're recording, or when we're editing, we can zoom in on something if we remember. But if we don't remember either of those things, or some people don't know about those things, do you know that you can zoom in on YouTube? They implemented this a few months back, and I keep wanting to share it because I think it's awesome. So I've got my harvesting hot pinks video up here, and I have it paused, and I'm pointing at something, and I've got it horizontal versus vertical. I have it, let's just go back, because some people don't know you can do that. Down here in this tiny little square thing here, if you tap that, it will enlarge it so that you can watch it on a bigger screen. And when it's in this mode, you can zoom in on it and see what she's pointing at. Isn't that cool? So I do this a lot when I watch people who are drawing or teaching detailed things, and they don't zoom in. They're doing it way down here, sometimes even worse. it's so far away, but I zoom in quite a bit and I watch exactly what they're doing. Or if I want to see a detail on a journal spread or something, I use this all the time. Of course, on a desktop computer, you can zoom your whole screen in, but this is just YouTube and YouTube mobile. I have an iPhone. Obviously, I have all iPhones, nothing but iPhones. And when, oops, I have an old iPhone. This one's an old one. You can unlock it and have it turn. Every time you turn it, it turns, and that makes me bananas. So this is locked. I have it locked vertically because that's how I use my phone 99% of the time. But in YouTube, if I want it horizontal, I can just tap that little bugger and I don't have to unlock my horizontal vertical. And again, I can zoom in up to 8 times. Very handy. Very handy indeed. So try that. I'm not going to zoom in on purpose. I'm going to keep working. And if you're on a mobile device, tap that little button so that it goes sideways on you. And then zoom in and you can see up close what's happening here. So do one, skip one, do one, skip one. Now the next one I'll do is here. And then it gets kind of weird because there's 2 that I won't do, and then 1 I will do, and then 1 I won't do. So I'm going to do this one. Not these 2 right here, but I'll do this one. There's a tiny little line. That's the one I'm not going to do. Not going to do, going to do. Not going to do, going to do, not going to do. It's best to only think of your next one. Not way ahead, not too far ahead, because it gets really, who needs that when you're trying to relax? But it's super fun, and I quite like it. And what I find interesting is that you go back to things that you've always done. Those tracks are well worn. High school is 4 decades behind me, as is a lot of my college. And yet I still revert right back to that. And some of the doodles that I did were doodles that I've been doing since I was a kid. Of course, they're dog related. I'll have to dig those out and I'll show you my little dog Ruff, who was in every single book I ever had in high school and college. Gentle crafting for self-care. Tearing papers through tears. Crying and crafting. Doodling as a good distraction. And scraping through grief. I was also cleaning. I went on a big purge. I'm on a purge fest. So cleaning and crafting and crying. All good therapy. You gotta let those tears out or they'll eat you alive. It's a balance. Like, when do I stop crying? When is enough enough? The important thing is to look forward and to remember only the good stuff. Not the what ifs, not the I should haves, not the bad last 24 hours, but the really good 11 years before that. It's not always easy, and I think that's part of the grief process. You just have to work through that. But with friends, gentle crafting, and going easy on yourself, it'll be okay. Eventually, it'll be okay. Thank you again to all my new subscribers who subscribed even though I was absent. Thank you to all my old subscribers, vintage subscribers. So appreciated. Go love up your beastlies, because I'm telling you, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. You just don't. So love them up while they're here. Take care. Have a lovely crafty day. Mate at the lake. Out for now.